Have you ever wondered why the normal things that other couples seem to get through, like asking for help with dinner or talking about weekend plans, turns into major conflict in your relationship? I'll be honest, I've been there. There were so many times that I thought I was helping. I'd jump in with a suggestion or try to make things easier for my husband, and instead of feeling supported, he felt criticized or offended. And then on the flip side, when I asked for help, it almost felt like he would push back harder. Like instead of lightening the load, he wanted to prove a point or even make it worse. And if we tried to talk about it, 9 times out of 10, it ended the same way: silence, withdrawal, or both of us feeling even further apart. And here's the thing: that doesn't mean your marriage is broken. And it doesn't mean you're doing everything wrong. What it could mean is that trauma, specifically complex PTSD, is showing up in your relationship. And when that's the case, all the usual marriage advice, communicate better, compromise more, just don't go to bed angry, these things actually create more distance. So, in this episode, I'm going to show you what CPTSD really looks like inside a marriage, why it feels so unpredictable, and most importantly, what you can do about it. Because here's the truth: you can't fight trauma with logic, but you can learn to work with it. And when you do, connection starts to replace conflict. All right, so let's dive in. So let's start with the basics. Most people have heard of PTSD. It's the body's reaction to a single traumatic event like combat or a car accident. Complex PTSD or CPTSD is different. It develops from repeated trauma, usually in childhood, and often inside the very relationships that were supposed to provide safety. And that means someone growing up learned that love isn't safe, connection isn't secure, and their nervous system carries that into adulthood, way into adulthood, even when life looks totally different now. So the result, their brain and body are wired to stay on high alert. So here are some of the common patterns of CPTSD: hypervigilance, always scanning for danger, even when there isn't any; emotional flashbacks, suddenly reacting with fear, anger, or shame that feels bigger than the moment because it's pulling from the past; dysregulation, struggling to calm down once emotions are triggered; and deep shame cycles, feeling like they are the problem or that they're too much to love. Now, you might be thinking, but my husband doesn't talk about any big T trauma. But maybe you just suspect his childhood wasn't easy. Here's the truth: CPTSD doesn't always come from something as obvious as severe physical or sexual abuse. Sometimes it's a chaotic household, inconsistent parenting, emotional neglect, or never knowing what version or mom and dad you're going to get when you walk in the door. These experiences might not look like trauma on the outside, but to a child's developing brain, they create the same survival wiring. And here's the kicker: when those patterns show up in marriage, they don't look like trauma at first glance. They look like criticism, overreactions, or withdrawal. But underneath, it's not that your partner doesn't care, it's their nervous system doing exactly what it had to do to survive. And once you understand that, you can stop seeing the conflict as a character flaw and start seeing it as a survival response. Okay, so what does this all actually look like inside a marriage? Number one, walking on eggshells. You never quite know what's going to set your spouse off. A simple comment about how to load the dishwasher or a question about weekend plans can suddenly explode into a big reaction, and you feel like you're tiptoeing around those emotions. Number two, conflict that escalates out of nowhere. What starts as a small disagreement, like who's picking up the kids, can snowball. Your partner's nervous system goes into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Maybe they get angry and defensive. Maybe they shut down completely. Either way, the intensity feels way out of proportion to the situation. Withdraw in silence is number 3. You finally muster the courage to bring something up, and then you get nothing, just silence, maybe hours or even days of it. And you're left feeling like you don't even exist in this relationship. Number 4, mistrust and control patterns. Even when you're trying to help, it feels like they don't trust your intentions or they need things done a certain way to feel safe. And when you don't do it right, it turns into conflict. I'm right. All right. And number 5, shame spirals. After the blow up, they might collapse into guilt or say things like, I'm just the problem, or you'd be better off without me, which leaves you scrambling to reassure them while your own needs go unmet. And here's the really tricky part. From the outside, these patterns don't necessarily look like trauma. They look like personality quirks or like your partner is just being difficult. But underneath, you guys, it's the nervous system replaying old survival strategies. The part of them that learned long ago that safety was never guaranteed. And when that gets triggered in marriage, both of you end up feeling stuck in the same loop. Conflict, withdrawal, shame. Put this on repeat. Now, here's why so many couples get stuck, including me, people. When you're dealing with CPTSD in marriage, all the traditional advice, the stuff you've heard in books, in blogs, in podcasts, from well-meaning friends, usually makes things worse. Take this one. Just communicate better. Sounds simple, right? But when your partner's nervous system is in survival mode, their brain literally cannot process logical conversation. So trying to explain, defend, or talk it out in these moments, it's like trying to reason with someone who's running from a bear. They're not ignoring you. They can't hear you. Or how about don't go to bed angry? That advice can backfire in a trauma-impacted marriage. Pushing to resolve things before bed often keeps both of you dysregulated. So instead of connection, it turns into hours of looping arguments or more silence, while neither of you can actually calm down enough to repair. And then here's the classic, just compromise. But compromise requires flexibility. And when the CPTSD is triggered, the brain is locked in protection mode and there is no wiggle room, none, until safety is restored. And here's the bottom line. Traditional marriage tools are built for couples whose nervous systems aren't carrying trauma. For them, those tips might work. But in a trauma-impacted marriage, logic and quick fixes can just create more distance. And if you're listening to this, I know you're feeling that. That's why if you've been trying all the usual strategies and still feel stuck, you're not failing. You just need a trauma-informed approach. All right. So what can you do instead? What if traditional advice doesn't work? What does? The key is this. When trauma is in the mix, you can't force resolution. You have to prioritize safety first. And there are 3 trauma-informed steps that change everything. Number 1, press pause. This is step 1. When things start to escalate, your instinct might be to talk faster, explain harder, push for resolution, apologize. I don't know, everything that you try to do to try and make it better. Oh, please don't go down this spiral, right? But here's the truth. No good conversation can happen when one or both of you are triggered, period. So what do? The first step is simple, but not easy. You need to press pause. Step away from the heat of the moment before the fire spreads. You can say something like, I want to talk about this, but we're both in a good place. This is important to me. I want to give it the attention it deserves. Let's come back to it when we're both calm. And then breathe. I want you to try the 4-7-8 method. This works for me and it's worked for others. Inhale for 4, hold for 7, exhale for 8. And remind yourself, this isn't about solving the problem right now. It's about creating space for calm, for safety. Now, why does this work? Because when emotions are high, the survival brain takes over, and real connection, it's impossible. Pressing pause interrupts the cycle and sets the tone for connection instead of chaos. All right, are you ready for step 2? Except it's not about you. This one is huge. While none of us are perfect, if the reaction is stronger than the situation calls for, it is most likely coming from the past. So when your partner snaps or shuts down, remind yourself, this reaction is a survival response, not a personal attack. I like to repeat the mantra, it's not me, it's not him, it's what happened to him. Instead of defending yourself or trying to fix their emotions, just stay steady. Grab your magnifying glass and look for clues. Ask yourself, what might this reaction really be about? Notice patterns, certain tones, phrases, or situations that seem to escalate things out of proportion. Now, why does this work? Because once you stop personalizing every reaction, you get to stop spiraling right along with them. Understanding that the trigger is rooted in past pain, not your worth, lets you respond with empathy instead of guilt. And that's what keeps the door open for connection. And step 3 is engage when ready, and only when ready. Only when you're calm and they're calm do you re-engage. This is where you circle back to the issue, but from a place of safety and not panic. Pick a low pressure moment, maybe during a walk, a meal, while you're both relaxed. Then lead with calm, specific language. I've noticed we've had tension around such and such topic. I'd love to talk about how we can make this easier for both of us. And be okay with a delayed response. Trauma impacted brains often need more time to process because they will immediately kind of start getting in safety mode, survival mode, right? And if they don't fully engage right away, don't panic. Let them know it's okay to take your time. It's okay to think about it, and then let's come back to it. Now, why does this work? Because it removes pressure and creates emotional safety. Instead of trying to control or fix, you're inviting them into a supportive conversation. And that builds trust and over time, healthier communication patterns. So instead of pushing harder in the heat of the moment, these 3 steps, press pause, accept it's not about you, and engage when ready, become the rhythm that turns conflict into connection. So here's what I want you to take away today. CPTSD can make marriage feel very unpredictable, like you're trapped in a cycle of conflict, silence, and shame. But it's not hopeless. When you stop treating it like a character flaw and start seeing it for what it is, a survival response, you open the door to compassion, connection, and change. And remember this, you don't have to fix everything in one conversation. You don't even have to solve it all today. All you need is a new rhythm. Pause when things escalate. Remind yourself it's not about you, and re-engage only when you're both calm. Those 3 simple steps can shift the atmosphere in your marriage from chaos to calm, from disconnection to safety. And if you're ready to go deeper, I've created a free guide just for you. It's called Stop Arguments Before They Start, the 3-step conflict diffuser cheat sheet. And inside, you're going to get these trauma-informed tools to create emotional safety and connection without spiraling into conflict. You can grab it through the link below. So remember, you're not just building a marriage, you're building a legacy of understanding, patience, and love. And that's worth every step.